Okay, so my next phase now is I'm going to do the metals. So as you can see here, I've got a very kind of tarnished effect on my weapons and armour. Kind of silvery underneath, but then with a metallic kind of corrosion on top with a bit of darkness in the highlights. Sorry, in the shading. So, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to start with lead belcher, which is a base colour. Then after that's dry, I'm going to contrast wildwood to create that bronzing effect. And then I'm going to use Black Legion just to get some shadows going. So, then not using really a expensive brush for this part. Make sure it's wet so that you can get this across. You will find that if you do use lead belcher, it's a paint that separates, I've found, when it's left in the pot for a while, and it gets a very black hue, but that can be solved by shaking it. Right, so I'm going to get the silver on this now. Say silver, it's more like a proper industrial metal lead belcher. Okay, now notice how I'm trying to get good coverage with the silver, but at the same time it's not going on very thick overall. So again, it's just about getting this stuff to move around where you want it to, and I'm trying to get it mainly in the recesses. Now it looks like there's none really on the top and, you know, on the main like upper parts of the metal, and that is deliberate. I want that. Just trying to thicken it a bit right on the edges. And the reason I'm thickening it is because I do want the edges to kind of shine. So slight thickening as I head around the edges. Okay, and then I think obviously then on the end of the weapon I've got some metal here, metallics here. Now, a lot of people who know me know that I actually have a kind of a love affair with perfecting my non-metallic metal effect, and they might be wondering, well, why are you doing not regular metals on this guy? It's a twofold thing. First of all, this is a big project to paint up Stormbringer. So obviously that is a lot of effort to put in to something like this, even though, you know, it's not that I don't think it's worth my time. I just obviously I need to keep my models painted so that as the new issues come in I can keep on top of things. You know, it's simple. Yeah, simple economy is simple really. I just don't want this becoming sat in, you know, sat in a box somewhere just doing nothing. I want to make sure that these two whole armies are fully painted, and I want to make sure that before the next issue turns up, this whole force is ready to be added to. So that leaves me quite a challenge, because as most people know, I'm a slow painter. I don't rush my painting. Anyway, so I'm having to stay away from my non-metallic metals on this project, otherwise I just simply will not have time to finish it. Okay, so that's all my metals by the look of it, all covered. Now I'm just gonna quickly have a look here because I'm worried that I've got a bit of overspill with the silver on too much of my purple, and I don't want to have to go back over that. Again, another good reason about thinning paints is that when they bleed into each other, they're hopefully quite easy to kind of rub off. Yeah, it's very important that these guys look good. Right, okay, I think I've stopped any of it kind of encroaching. Yeah, there we go. Right. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry for a bit before I move on to the Wildwood contrast. So now it's dried, I'm going to move on to the Wildwood contrast. Now, when I run Wildwood contrast over silver, by a bit, what I should end up getting here, you can see it's a bronzing effect like I would get if I was putting it over a light grey. Now, again, I'm going to try my best to get this to flow over it nicely. I said I'm not really after completely covering that grey. I am trying to, silver even, I'm trying to use it to gather the effect that I want. Which is something that gives the impression that it's made of one metal. It's got some kind of corrosion on it, but that corrosion, well, I don't want it really to suggest anything in particular. I don't want it to be rust. I know rust would be something that you might say, well, okay, if they're just making crude iron weapons, then they're going to rust. Yeah. But, you know, maybe it's an alloy. Maybe it's not well forged. And there we go. I've now got some metallics on there. Now, I just need to let that dry just for a bit before I use my black to just get a bit of tone around certain parts. And just to finish off, get my contrast. And then, again, just getting it nice and wet. And I'm just using it to create a little bit of shading in key areas. Okay, so yeah, not quite going on as I wanted it to. There we go. Yeah, and just pop a little bit of shade underneath some areas there, just to really help create a moment where one thing ends and the other begins. That's a bit more than I wanted there. That's fine, it's gone in. Oh. And obviously, even on the spear itself, if I want to create just what am I doing? There we go. There we go then. And that is how I create that simple metal effect